Hello everybody and welcome to Bedminster in the south of Bristol. Now today I was trying to film some of the lesser known and more unusual bus services and vehicles in Bristol, but unfortunately it didn't get off to a very good start. This here is the 161 shopper bus, which runs a circular from Winterstoke Road, Sainsbury's. This particular service went around to Knoll, but I believe they operate a few other routes. It's supposed to be operated by a bus and sometimes has a Scania omnidecker on it, which is the whole reason why I came up here. But unfortunately the omnidecker was not out today, and instead I had a Centurion Travel, I think that's how you say it, minibus, which was definitely not what I hoped for, and well, I didn't really enjoy it very much. Anyway, here I am now heading into Bristol city centre on the 24th. This was formed by one of the many new Yutong U11DDs that have recently entered service, but that was not an unusual bus. I didn't just come to Bristol to sample the A-Bus 161 service, though I was very pleased that it at least turned up, though it was a minibus. I also came to Bristol to sample a few other buses, but mainly the many Volvo B90L Right Eclipse Gemini buses that are still operating around Bristol. Now I did think First West of England in general, let alone Bristol, did still have some Volvo B90L Right Eclipse Gemini 2 vehicles, but I'm not too sure where they have gone, as I couldn't see them anywhere on the bus tracker in Bristol, and I also couldn't see them on the fleet list for First West of England. Anyway, here I am on a Unibus Adel Enviro 400 MMC heading further into Bristol city centre in the Broadmead area to try and catch some of the Volvo B9s. Here I am arriving into Bristol city centre, and here I am just around the corner on Union Street, where buses not only pass by but also stop, unlike this 172 which is heading straight to Bristol bus station. And here is a Scania N280UD Adel Enviro 400 City CBG on the number 4 service heading towards Cribbs Causeway. And here is a Adel Enviro 400 MMC on the 9 towards Brislington Parking Line. This is one of the not so many services operated by Stagecoach West in Bristol, although they do operate many other services, just not in the Bristol area. And here is another First West of England Volvo B90L, also heading towards Cribbs Causeway, but this time on the 1 service. And here is another Scania N280UD gas-powered bus heading towards Walmley. And here is another Volvo B90L on the 2 heading towards Cribbs Causeway. The number 1 and 2 services basically run parallel to each other, just like services 3 and 4, which also head towards Cribbs Causeway. That Volvo B90L wore the very attractive City Lines blue livery, though my favourite livery is the City Lines 24, which wears a very nice green livery. Here is my Volvo B90L arriving into Union Street, which wears the City Lines 3 and 4 livery and is actually on the correct route, the Service 3, heading towards Cribbs Causeway. This version of the City Lines livery is a purple livery, and although it's decent, I personally prefer the other City Line brands. Here I am arriving into Broad Quay, otherwise known as the centre. This is not where most of the shops are though, and what I would call the centre is actually known as Broadmead. As I approach Clifton Down Station, we can see two other Volvo B90Ls, which wear the first Olympia livery, which used to be the standard first bus livery, similar to what the ultraviolet livery does today. Here I am now at Redland, and here's my next Volvo B90L arriving into Black Boy Hill, which is the only Volvo B90L in the first West of England fleet to wear a fully orange livery for the number 1, 1A and 2 services, with all of the other 1, 1A and 2 branded vehicles, both Volvo B90Ls and ADL Enviro 400 MMCs, just wearing the orange band around the front and then wearing either the Olympia or Urban liveries on the rest of the vehicle. Here I am passing Bristol's Volvo B90L, which wears the old First Colonel livery and didn't transfer up to Bristol from Cornwall that long ago. Here I am arriving into the Haymarket, which is located just across the road from Broadmead, Cabot Circus and the galleries where all of the shops are located, and is located just around the corner from Bristol bus station. Here is my next bus, which is another West Bus branded Yutong U11DD, and this was on one of the 70 series of services. I can't quite remember. I took this service to Filton.
Next stop, Steps Croft.
Here I am now at Filton New Road as that Yutong U11DD heads off towards UWE French A campus. Now my next service was the Eurocoaches 534 service, which is one of the few services they do actually operate in the Bristol area, but surprisingly they have gained quite a lot of routes since the 534 was introduced a couple of months ago, possibly even years ago now, but I don't think so, I can't quite remember, perhaps it was over a year ago now. the service usually operates with an ex-Dublin Volvo B70L Alexander ALX 400, and I believe one of those is actually branded up with the West local stickers for the 534 service. However, today, since I don't think the colleges were around, then again it has been a Volvo B70L on all of the other days in the Christmas period, but today I got one of the ADL Enviro 200s that Eurocoaches had. This is a Enviro 200 Dart and was slightly unusual. It had a weird roof on it, one that I've never seen on an Enviro 200 before, and it had Dart style seats, which I did actually quite like. Here I am getting off the bus in the Down End area to change onto the 49X service, which would whisk me back into Bristol city centre, and had a lovely Volvo B90L on the service. Here is my next Volvo B90L Right Eclipse Gemini arriving into Down End Sandringham Avenue to take me into Bristol city centre. Beyond Eastville, this service runs along the M32 into the city centre, and on this service I had a Volvo B90L which was wearing the City Lines blue livery, which is one of my favourites, though it is not my absolute favourite. Anyway, here I am heading into Fish Ponds. Just before I get too far into Fish Ponds and head off into the city centre, I'd just like to say that Eurocoaches driver, whoever that was that I got on the 534 service, which runs between Filton and Fish Ponds, I think that driver should be praised. He was an incredibly nice and kind driver, and he was very nice to us, as we were the only two passengers, me and my friend, on the entire service, and we were on there for a good 20 minutes, half an hour. Here I am joining the M32, which pretty much splits Fish Ponds and Eastville in half, heading into Bristol city centre. It was quite strange being on a double-decker on the M32, but it was also incredibly cool and sped up the journey by a massive amount. As I leave the M32 behind and head further into Bristol city centre, we can see the massive Cabot Circus shopping area straight in front of us as we head towards Broadmead. Here I am getting off the 49X service just around the corner from Cabot Circus on Bond Street to head over to Bristol bus station. Here I am heading into Bristol bus station. Now I could have gotten on an earlier Volvo B90L on the 522 service, however I purposely waited for the 349 service, which runs 15 minutes after the 522 service, as a City Lines 24 branded Volvo B90L was operating on that service. I also love the seat maquette on the City Lines 24 Volvo B90Ls, and I do believe a few other City Line branded Volvo B9s also have this maquette, but not many buses have this maquette anymore, and I do think it is rather unique. As I leave the bus station on my final service heading towards Bristol Temple Meads railway station, we can see the array of different brands that currently operate around Bristol, some of which still operate, some of which, like all of the City Lines brands, are now defunct and are just part of the main First Bus corporate brand. Although all of the stuff like the City Lines brand and the South Gloss Links brand are going, the services around here are not being rebranded into the First Ultraviolet livery and First corporate identity, as WECA want all of the bus services in the Bristol area to go like Manchester or London, and all of these services, or hopefully all of the services in this area, are going to be branding up as West Bus. Although saying that, First Bus are the only people to make action at the moment, and I think WECA are just hoping that all of the other smaller bus companies will follow, but I don't think many of them, such as the Big Lemon, are too happy about that, as they don't want their identity going, especially the Big Lemon, as they have recently, or not so recently anymore, lost a whole ton of operations around Brighton. Although saying that, I do think the Big Lemon livery is pretty iconic. You can't miss a bright yellow bus heading towards you now, can you? As I head towards Temple Meads station, here I am crossing the Bristol Bridge. I find it strange that the more main attraction, which is the Clifton Suspension Bridge, is called the Clifton Suspension Bridge rather than the Bristol Suspension Bridge, since it is the major bridge, unlike the Bristol Bridge, which is just absolutely tiny, to be honest. Anyway, here I am arriving into Temple Meads. I was quite lucky that I got off here, as the bus driver almost went past my stop. Anyway, that'll be the end of this video, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I am running out of videos and video ideas, so if you could give me some which aren't too difficult and are relatively Somerset Devon based, that would be absolutely amazing. And thank you very much for all of the continued support on my YouTube journey, and thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone!